Hi, my name's Sven Peterson, and I played my last game of Ultimate May of this year, 2024. My first game of Ultimate was in 1975, September. I happened upon the first game of Ultimate ever played in Delaware. A couple of Columbia High School students were trying to get people together for a game, and I played, so I was lucky. I had played a lot of sports, baseball, basketball, football, pretty regularly as a kid. Did a lot of athletics, and I found Ultimate was just way better than anything else I'd done. And fell in love with it. Was elected co-captain within a few weeks of the team. We played our first game at Penn State in '75. We drove to Penn State and then drove home. There were no tournaments at the time. At least I don't think so in '75. We didn't know of any. And then played in Nationals the following spring. And this is a Nationals disc from Amherst in 1976. Apparently it's the first Nationals ever. And we lost the game for 9th place, 36-30. Apparently that's the most points ever scored in a game at Nationals. We lost in overtime because we played 24-minute stop time halves with frisbees like this. A master frisbee, which were anywhere from 147 to 155 grams. They varied a lot. They flew terribly. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a blast. And pretty much everybody there at Nationals in '76 was a white male college student. Rare to find somebody outside of that category. So anyway, I played with Delaware for a long time. At Nationals, I actually played with Michigan State University, so I'm a Spartan. With Eric Simon, who was our captain. My co-captain, John Houston Sherman, and I captained the Delaware team for decades. I also went and played with a lot of other teams. Delaware didn't... We got some pretty good teams together in the '70s, but it was hard to keep people playing, and so I ended up playing with... I jumped the river, went to Jersey, joined the Seven Sages, a team that had a blast with for a long time. These are some of the frisbees that I saved. I lost a lot of frisbees. But let's see, moving on, 1989 World Championship. We won this in Cologne, West Germany in July of '89. And so we were world champions, which was pretty nice. And then a couple years later, at the next world championship, I was playing with the Seven Sages again. Oh, in '89, I played with Fillmore, a Philadelphia-Baltimore team. In the Seven Sages, we won the Masters World Championship in 1991. That was the first Masters World Championship. And then won it again in '93 and '95. So that was a three-peat, because they were every other year. I played a lot of April Fools. I played from '79 to 2004. 26 years, I believe, straight. Played in every April Fools. Many Delaware teams. We had so much fun at April Fools. It was a real fun tournament. And we won a few of those. Let's see, back in 1983, I remember winning the European National Championship in Jams, Belgium. And that was in May of '83 with some Sages. We called ourselves the Twisted Noses at the time. And first nationals I won was in 2002. Here we go. 2002 with Old Sag, my buddies from Philadelphia. We had a great Philly team, and we won Masters. Is it time to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. Enjoy Ultimate. Okay, I'm going to try and tell you a little bit about the difference between Ultimate today and Ultimate when I first started and in the 70s and 80s. Today, Ultimate is so organized. You have the ability basically to find an Ultimate game wherever you want to, and there's going to be people to play. In the 70s, it was hard as heck to get 7-on-7. We played a lot of practices where we were playing 3-on-3 and 4-on-4. We made up, we did the best we could. We didn't have an internet, we had phones, so we had phone trees, and so somebody would call somebody and tell them to call their people on the phone tree, and of course that broke down somewhere along the way. So we had flyers, we'd send out flyers. When I put on a tournament, I would try and get in touch with whoever I could and put flyers all around the place. When we were organizing all of Ultimate, there was a captain's meeting in New Jersey, and we would all the captains from the teams would go there that knew about it, and we'd be in a hall, an assembly sort of area, and we'd be going from captain to captain, finding out who had games, putting them on our schedule, and it was all word of mouth. Everything was sort of done by the players. There was no medical staff, there were no parents, there were no coaches, there were no, nothing was organized for us. We had to do everything ourselves. So, the players obviously paid for everything, but we had to organize the tournaments as well, organize the teams, all that stuff. So, how else was it different? Different discs. The discs that we played with were so much worse than a 175. 175s fly so much straighter. I remember the transition from a master frisbee, this kind of frisbee with ridges, and to the 165. This is probably a 165. We played the CARE tournament in SUNY in '83, and when we would throw a flick, the disc would just turn over like monstrously with the old discs, and then the 165 came along, and we'd be throwing the disc, to have it angle in out of bounds, just in bounds, but this disc would just keep on going and just keep going out of bounds. So we had to get used to a new, drop for the disc at the end, and then when we switched again to the 175, which would probably be late 80s maybe, I think. Anyway, the 175 then did the same thing. You'd be trying to drop it in, and it would just keep on going because it was a much straighter flight. Let's see. The first women's team in Delaware was 1984. I coached the first women's team. Our men's team was called the New Boys, Greater Newark Ultimate, new, and women's team was called the New Girls, and that was the first women's team in Delaware. So it was getting women to play was not easy in the beginning because you were playing with the men, in order to have a game, also we played 24-minute stop time halves, and that was horrid because you had to have somebody on the sideline with a stopwatch literally turning the time on and off when play stopped and resumed. And we lost so many girlfriends because whenever somebody would bring a girlfriend, she'd be on the sideline, and that would be a person that we'd ask to do that. And of course, they didn't last very long because they didn't want to do that. So I hope that gives an idea of how many differences there are between Ultimate today and Ultimate in the past. Okay, one of the things that's different today than in the past is we have observers. We have, in the big games, you've got observers. In 1984, this was the national championships in Santa Barbara in 1984. I showed up because back then you got airplane tickets and you never got a chance to, you couldn't really change, you got them way ahead of time. So we were sure we were going to nationals, our team was, and we didn't make it. So I went and I planned on partying with friends, I'm watching games. I'd never done that before at tournaments, and I thought it'd be pretty cool. So I went, and as soon as I got off the plane, I was asked to become the chief observer for nationals. And there had been a couple of observers before, but nothing was standard. And so I was sort of just given the job and had to run around and follow teams that were misbehaving. And it was very strange. There was no playbook. There was nothing to suggest how to be an observer. And at the time, in the UPA newsletter, there were constantly arguments about we should have refs, we should have no refs, we should have refs, we should have no refs. And so the observer was the compromise in order to have some order in the game, because there had been fist fights, there had been people cheating, there had been, a bunch of times, even in the highest level of Ultimate. And so we had to change that. And so the observer system began. But before '84, there were pretty much no observers in Ultimate. And it was somewhat like a frontier. Anyway, thanks for listening.